All right, so moving on here today, we talked briefly about Imperialism Friday and this new chapter we're going to dive into as the United States is rising as a world power. Okay, and that's probably going to lead to what? What do you think it's going to lead to, Roy? The United States is competing at the world stage. You think the U.S. is going to get involved in something here soon enough? Like what? War. Yeah, good job. Yeah, so eventually the U.S. will be involved in war. All right, so I want to start off with the vocab first. So I got two terms for you. Two terms, got imperialism and extractive economies. So I know I went over imperialism already with you. Okay, just working on vocab. New chapter. New chapter. We have imperialism and extractive economies. What was that? Chloe! Holy! Oh, that did sound.
I know it did.
Darn tootin', Chloe.
Shut up.
Wow. All right, so we'll wait to go over imperialism when we discuss the bell here. But what do we have for extractive economies? Extractive economies. Lindsay, go ahead.
A resource-based economy is dependent on harvesting or extracting natural resources for sale and trade, with little to no processing.
All right, good job, good job. So we're going to talk about how these countries, specifically the United States, and tomorrow we're going to go through a simulation of how these European countries expanded down into Africa, right? So these countries that are imperialistic, they're expanding because they're more dominant, they're powerful, okay? They have a stronger military, the means of the economy, right? And they're going to try to become, let me start the video here, sorry. They're going to try to become more powerful at the world level. So the United States especially, we're gonna talk about and mention how they're going to be expanding into Cuba, Puerto Rico, okay, Hawaii, Alaska, the Philippines, Guam, right, you name it. And that comes along with a war, okay, with a war. So real quick, what was the Monroe Doctrine? I know I mentioned this on Friday, but what did this Monroe Doctrine establish? What was the significance of it? What was it set out to do? You guys remember? Monroe Doctrine? I know I mentioned it Friday. Pretty sure you guys talked about it last year with Mr. Henninger. What was the Monroe Doctrine? There you go, you can look it up. Maybe if you find an answer here, Brian, you might not have to do your current event Friday. Oh, he's typing faster now. Brian, go ahead.
The doctrine warns European nations
Okay, good job. So we all know the United States, Western Hemisphere. So these European countries, there are still a few over here at the start of the 1900s. Okay, one of them in the late 1800s, 1900s, Spain. Right, so Spain, they had control of territories of Cuba, right, Puerto Rico, the Philippines, and Guam, right here, Guam. So with the United States, they wanted to try to rid these European countries out of the Western Hemisphere. Why? Why do they want to do that? Why do they want to try to push these European countries out of the Western Hemisphere? Brian, what do you think? Yeah, good job, good job. So the only real country that could defeat the United States, maybe be a potential threat, are these European countries, right? Because they're going through industrialization, because they have strong militaries. If we can try to push these European countries out of the Western Hemisphere, that will avoid maybe a war. Okay, that makes sense. So with the Spanish American War, we'll talk about that here soon. It only lasts 6 months. That's it. They call it the Splendid Little War. Really, we all know, it's really lopsided. Okay, the United States kind of defeats them pretty easy. And then there's another country we'll talk about, a European country that has land here in the Western Hemisphere, specifically what we know as Alaska. Okay. What country owned Alaska at that time, Roy? Russia, good job. Okay, so we're not going to go in guns a-blazing against Russia up here in Alaska, but we will purchase that land from them. So again, following that Monroe Doctrine, we're going to push these European countries out of the Western Hemisphere. We want to make sure that we can control this to ourselves. We can have this side of the world really to ourselves and try to take advantage of these areas, these territories, these resources that are provided here in the Western Hemisphere. All right, so extractive economies is when a country, let's say that's going through industrialization, they go to these territories, these smaller countries, and they are extracting resources. Pretty easy, right? So they're taking these resources and doing what with them? What are they going to be doing with these resources, these raw materials? They're going to be taking them back up to the European country, to the markets, to the industries, to the factories to make a finalized good out of it. So specifically here in Africa, diamonds, gold, okay, these European countries are extracting these resources, mostly forcing these indigenous people to work as slaves in their own countries and their own territories here, bringing these diamonds and gold back up to Europe and making jewelry out of it, right? Necklaces, rings, you name it. And they're making big bucks off of it. Does it cost anything to try to extract resources? Not really. Okay, yeah, you have to have a military there. So yeah, there's some funding. But for the most part, you're using these people as slaves in their own country to extract these resources for the betterment, for the profits you're seeking in the markets. Does that make sense? Okay, not only was there just jewelry or gold and diamonds, but oil, gas, coal, fuel. Okay, focused here in Africa, that's really untouched. Okay, that they can use these resources to fuel their economies, fuel their industries. Does that make sense, guys? All right, so with Europe, we know it's very small, jam-packed together. Sooner or later, the resources are going to be limited, so they have to go somewhere else, hence Africa. United States, like I mentioned, doing it very similar, okay, but they're going to these smaller islands focused right along the equator, where there's a resource like sugar that you can't really find here in continental United States. If they can monopolize that resource, okay, then they can control the prices to whatever they want to sell it in that market. All right, is there any questions on extractive economies? You guys good with that? All right, cool. So bell ringer for today. So what is imperialism? Give an example of imperialism. Let you guys work on that. All right, so let's go over this. What is imperialism? What does that mean? Tyler, what do you have? Yeah, good job. Good job. So, really is just a bigger, stronger country, a country that's developed, that's going through industrialization, that has a strong military, that is trying to take over a smaller territory or a smaller, weaker country for the means of resources, establish power, to set up military bases. Okay. And for the most part, they just want what that, let's say, territory or that country has. Right. So, an example Tyler gave is Great Britain establishing the 13 colonies, United States. That's a great one. Good job. Roy, what example you come up with?
Just about the U.S. caught Spain.
There you go. Yeah. And then they take their assets, right? They took Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Philippines, Guam. Yeah, you name it. Good. What do you have, Brian? Okay. So 13 colonies, right? Brady, what example you come up with? Yeah, so taking over some of these lands and territories from the indigenous people, the Native Americans. Yeah, good. Chloe, what example do you come up with of imperialism?
When the British established colonies in North America.
Okay, yeah, there you go. There you go. So Great Britain, especially at this time, controlled almost 70% of the land areas in the United States. It's crazy. That's a huge, huge amount of land, especially small island of Great Britain. Okay, we'll talk about the scramble for Africa. They take over a lot of land here. India, Australia, okay, Canada. Oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. They controlled so much land and area, land mass, and the resources really was really abundant. And the reason they could do that, they had a strong navy. Alice, what do you have? Yeah, they're very imperialistic. Good. So they're expanding past their own borders. We all know with moving into Czechoslovakia, Poland, really all of Europe, okay, parts of North Africa, and far deep into Russia. It was unbelievable. So really the brief explanation I give is, does anybody have a bigger brother, a bigger sister in here? Chloe knows, yeah. So Chloe, if you, let's say, had snacks, or if you were playing a video game and Ben wanted it.
The snacks?
The snacks, yeah, what would he do?
Take it.
Could you do anything about it?
No.
Okay, yeah, so that's a good example, right? Yeah, there's not much you can do. My brother, he's 6'2", so
I yell at him, but
yeah, it's not much you can do.
no.
Mom, help, help. I don't know. But anyway, we all have that example of the older sibling, Brady with your sister, right? Beats you up, takes you. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, I know example, I play Xbox a lot. I have snacks. My brother, if he wanted to play Xbox or want my snacks, he'd beat me up, take it, and there's nothing I could do. Nothing I could do. So it is what it is. You just kind of lick your wounds and kind of move on. And it's the same example here with these countries as they're expanding past their own borders. A lot of these territories, these smaller countries, they're just like, well, it is what it is. They're more powerful than us. And we're just going to have to do what they say. So with that time period, many individuals in the United States didn't agree with the United States expanding past their own borders, taking these territories and literally forcing these people that lived in these territories to work as slaves. It's terrible if you think about it, right? It's a real dark side of history. But at the same time, would the United States be this world power, the only superpower in the world without this phase, without this era? Most likely not. So you got to take it with a grain of salt, I guess. Okay, when it comes to competition, when it comes to morality, right, ethics, it is what it is. Okay, so pre-test, you guys see this on Canvas. Kind of walk through this with you guys too. If I can find it. There we go. So eventually on October 1st, I can finally get rid of that chapter 1 once maybe everybody has all their work done. So chapter one chapter module is all finished. It's all completed. I will move up chapter 2 to the top, so it's easier for you to find assignments, the video lessons, you name it. Okay, does that make sense, guys? So when we're finally done October 1st with anybody that's maybe missing an assignment, they can turn that assignment in. You gotta email me the assignment name and I'll get you a grade. Right now they're in as EXs. That won't last forever. Come October 1st, they're going in as zeros. So please, please, please email me that assignment name so I can obviously get you a grade for that. So with module 2, emerging world power, right down here, I will move it to the top here, probably Friday or next Monday. So you can click on the title page if you like. This just shows a political cartoon, I think, that resembles this time period pretty well. And it talks about the objectives, the purpose, and the textbook chapters for this unit. All right, so what do we have here with this political cartoon? I think this is pretty interesting. What do we have here before we get to the pre-test? Who is that guy, you think? Roy, smoking the cigar. You don't know? He always says, I want you to be in the United States military. Uncle Sam, there you go. So Uncle Sam, he's looking at the Western Hemisphere, right? He's looking at these Pacific Islands. He's looking at really the Caribbean Islands. And he's planting US flags everywhere. Why? It shows the United States imperialistic methods, purposes, and their goals during this time period with their strong military, okay, with their strong industrial country now. The US is looking to expand, and there's no stopping them from controlling the Western Hemisphere. So I think that political cartoon really shapes and expresses what we're getting into with this chapter. All right, so that being said, you guys can check that out on the title page. I have it on each unit, each chapter, you'll see the title page right like that. So back to modules. Chapter 2. Now I'd like you guys to work on this pretest. So you just click right on the pretest and it brings it up and it has a couple questions. I believe 8 questions for you. If you want to, you can take a screenshot of it and you can edit it that way. Or if you want to, you can really just type it in on a Google Doc notes app, or if you write your notes down, you can write these down in your notes. All right, I'll give you some time to work on that and we'll get to it. We need more time. We good? Okay. So number one, here we go. Number one, see what your knowledge is of this chapter already. What happened within a year of U.S. Navy Commodore Matthew Perry's arrival in Tokyo Bay in 1853? What do we got here? Tyler, go ahead. A, United States annexed the island of Hawaii. Nope. Nope. What do we got here? Chloe?
B,
Japan became a U.S. territory in Asia? Nope. Roy?
See,
C, good job. Perry negotiated a treaty that opened trade to the U.S. So we'll mention this. We'll go over this here soon enough. It's called gunboat diplomacy. Matthew Perry is a commodore, a naval, really like a general in a way. And he goes to Japan, which Japan, I'll talk about soon enough, was closed off from the rest of the world for about 400 years, since the age of exploration in the 1400s. So almost, well, really 400 years, Japan's just closed their borders. They saw what these European countries were doing in parts of Asia, and they didn't want to have anything of it up until 1853. So Matthew Perry comes over with these huge naval ships to the point where they're armored to the gills. They had these artillery weapons on these naval ships. They had these weapons that the Japanese have never seen before. So the Japanese see these naval ships, and what do you think they do? They said, you know what? We don't want to fight with you. We'll open up trade, okay? But you have to give us these new technological advancements. You need to show us what modernization is, okay? You need to help us become more of a modern country. So that's the agreement. That's the agreement. And Japan becomes the most dominant Asian country in the world when it comes to military capabilities, when it comes to industrial power. And who do we fight in World War II in the Pacific? Japan. Oh man, so many people say we created our own enemy. Gosh, backfired on us. Oh, backfired. But anyway, Matthew Perry negotiated peace and opened up a trading partner with Japan. Japan accepting new modern views. Best of both worlds for everybody, huh? All right, number two, Queen Likiani was overthrown and Hawaii was annexed in what year? Lindsay, go ahead.
A,
Nope, not 1887. Nope. Brian? D, 1898. Good work. Good work. Yeah. So think about it, guys. I left the map up here for a reason. The chair's kind of blocking it. There you go. So Hawaii, right out here, way out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Why is the United States interested in this island territory? Well, it's like a stepping stone, right? You get to here, you restock, you refuel, and you're on your way to the Asian markets where you can make money, you can establish trade, you name it. And at that time, we defeated Spain, which the Philippines, they're a territory for the US. So it's a stepping stone really to get to our military base. We can keep an eye on these Asian countries and we can set up and establish trade with these Asian countries. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah, so it's really a military base. It is a way of trying to help move our way out to these Asian countries, the Asian markets. All right, what famous military base at Hawaii? What is it? Still today, what is it? Alice? Pearl Harbor, good job. 3, there we go. Why did U.S. Navy Commodore George Dewey lead an attack on ships in the Manila Bay during the Spanish-American War? Why did he do so? What do we got, Brady? B, the U.S. used the war to take over other territories? Okay, all right, so this one's a little tricky. I can accept that one. What else? What else? Roy, what do you think? What did you have? What did you have, A? Manila Bay was ruled by Spain and the ships belonged to the Spanish. Yeah, so that one kind of makes sense too. And I get it if you're trying to say C as well. So really, we're trying to poke Spain to be an aggressor, to try to start this war with the United States. Why? We can push this European country out of Western Hemisphere. Monroe Doctrine, right? And we can establish these, okay, these military bases. We can extract resources from these island territories, these island nations, and become a stronger country. Right. So yeah, A, B, and C all kind of look good there. So if you had A, B, or C, that's fine. That's fine. All right. Any questions on that one? Good. All right. Moving now. 4, a volunteer cavalry unit, the Spanish-American War was called. I know I mentioned this one. Chloe, what do you have? 4-4. D, the Great White Fleet. No, but we will talk about the Great White Fleet here soon enough. Roy, B, the Rough Riders. Yep, good job. So Teddy Roosevelt, famous cavalry unit. He was leading the charge here. And this is what really propelled him to be famous, to be popular amongst the American people, which would lead him to become president. All right, good work. 5, when did the United States grant independence to the Philippines? Brady, what do you have for 5? B, 1916? Nope. Nope. Alice, do you have this one? You have B? No. Roy? Okay. Tyler, D, 1946. You got it. Good job. So World War II ended when? 1945. A lot of these countries that were imperialistic in the early 1900s, right after World War II, they said, well, you know what? We need to focus on ourselves. We need to rebuild. Okay, let's give independence to these island territories to allow them to become really their own country. And let's just focus on ourselves. Great Britain especially, just let go of everything, really. They let go of everything and they kind of just focused on their own good and to try to rebuild and to still establish trade with these countries, but let them run their own doings. All right, 1946, good. 6, which country wanted to open trade with China? This is tricky again, but I'll just give you this one, United States, okay? This is called the open door policy, and the United States will open trade with China. And this is, like I said, the stepping stone to getting there with Hawaii, the Philippines, opening up trade with Japan to get to China with resources, raw materials that they have to offer, really expanding the United States market and to make them a lot of money. Spread influence, right? All right, 7, what gave the United States the right to preserve order in Cuba? This one's a little trickier. Lindsay, what do you have?
I said D.
D, the 4-Acre Act? Nope. Nope. That actually is an association with Puerto Rico. Yeah, Puerto Rico. Roy, C, the Platt Amendment. Good job, the Platt Amendment. Good. So we'll talk about this here soon enough. We know Cuba now as what type of country? There's uprisings actually over the summer, just this past summer, to try to overthrow this type of government. What is it? It's associated with bread. It's a red card. What is it? Brian? Communist. Yep. Good job. Good job. So at this time period, okay, right around this time, the United States used it as extracting resources, establishing a military base. And they said, well, we're going to really let you guys run your own country, but at the same time, we control everything coming in and going out of Cuba. And eventually this will lead to, we know as a Cuban Missile Crisis, okay, when we get to more the 1960s, and they'll accept communism and be associated with an alliance with the Soviet Union. And still to this day, still communist, right? Still a communist country. All right, 8, President Roosevelt sent troops to support Panamanian rebels in the fight against Colombia so that what do we got for 8? Van Halen, Panama. Know that song, anybody? No? Yeah, Roy does. All right, Van Halen. Van Halen. This is almost a year now since Eddie's been gone. R.I.P. Shredding the guitar. Alice, what do you have for 8? A, the Colombians would allow the US to build a canal. Nope. Nope. Go ahead, Roy.
See?
C, the US could build a canal in Panama at a lower price. You got it. Yep. So Colombia, at this time, Panama wasn't even a thing. Colombia, this country here in the northern part of South America, it really expanded up into the Caribbean Sea more. And the United States actually aided a rebellion, a revolt to the Panamanian rebels to push and fight the Colombians back so they had their own independence. And it just so happens to be the shortest distance to create a canal that could link the Atlantic Ocean and Pacific Ocean. So yeah, we just wanted to use it for a trade route, right? We just wanted to try to use it so that we can control trade through the Western Hemisphere. Oh man. Yeah, we gave the country their peace, their independence. But at the same time, we just wanted to control trade. So I guess it was a benefit of both worlds, I guess, right? So if the United States can control this trade route through the Western Hemisphere, they can charge countries that utilize it. And look at it. These European countries, no longer they want to pay up to Great Britain through the Suez Canal. They want to try to find an alternative route to get to these Asian countries a little quicker, a little faster. So they thought, well, the best way, right across the Atlantic, okay, right through the Western Hemisphere to the Pacific Ocean, to these islands, to these countries to establish trade. And the United States can charge whoever uses that trade route and make a boatload of money off of it. So again, the United States imperialistic idea. Is there any questions on that, guys? You have those questions? Yeah? All right, so first period, I went a little too far, I guess. So we're a little off, but we're going to play the game tomorrow, and we'll talk about imperialism more on Wednesday, okay? Maybe Thursday, we'll see, we'll see. Okay, so we will play the Scramble for Africa game tomorrow, talk about imperialism Wednesday, okay? And then we'll move forward with this chapter. Any questions, guys? You good? Awesome, awesome. That's all I have for today.